Hi everyone, Intuitive Edge here. Welcome once again to my channel. This is where we take an intuitive look at what's going on in our world. Well, this has been a very tumultuous week for many people, not only in the United States, but across the world, as we have seen acts of political violence rock us to our foundation and to our core. And it's been a very challenging week. This is my third attempt at doing a video. I first wanted to come on here to talk about what I was sensing intuitively and what I was feeling was playing out. And I wasn't happy with how that was turning out, because some of the things I was sensing is very sensitive and could be easily misconstrued. And after my last video that I was completely misunderstood by some people, and in talking about political violence and the need to change our ways and move past this idea that we solve problems by seeing another person, another human being, snuffed out, that somehow we are spiraling, at least we were, spiraling into a thought that violence is how we solve problems. If there was any good thing that came out of this week, is perhaps it made people think twice about their words and how we so easily can dehumanize other people to serve our own purposes. And I think this was a real wake-up call to a lot of people to see things differently. I did look into this. I'll share a few things that I saw. Before the alleged shooter had been apprehended, I was taken up in my mind's eye, and I was seeing up on top of the roof, looking down into the white tent. I was looking down the barrel of that thing, and I could see the scope, a very high-powered scope, and the crosshairs getting you could see very close up through that scope. So I knew that I was dealing with a high-powered deer rifle and not something like an AK or a 223 or an AR. I also got the feeling or the impression that the person behind that scope had olive-colored skin, not black, not white, just kind of in between. And I got an image of, when I zoomed out, of a slicked back hair into a ponytail. I also felt that this person was short in stature, around maybe 5'7", and very well built, like stocky. Someone who probably is very athletic or works out a lot. The day that this happened, on September 10th, I was very busy that day, and I did not have time to look intuitively at what was happening. I was seeing bits and pieces happening in the news and hoping for the best and then hearing the worst. So when I tuned into it the next day, I was back into a scene again with this person, and I felt like they were going through customs and flying somewhere else, probably home. I didn't sense it was an American-born person. I also felt the rifle was thrown someplace near water, perhaps a river or a lake. And then I did see that this person received a welcome back to their home, wherever that was, and that there would be informants feeding the investigators information that was not correct to throw them off a little bit of the correct trail. I say all that knowing that the official story doesn't line up with a lot of what I just said. And I'm okay with that. Because I think there have been too many of these types of situations where we are just told to accept the official story and move on. And trust that our government would never lie to us, that there are no ulterior motives, and that they are doing everything in their power to apprehend those responsible. What I saw didn't line up. Maybe 20% of it did. But I'm going to hold by what I saw. And as we think and look for ourselves, our own hearts and minds can tell us the truth. The one thing about a lie that's perpetrated is it's only a lie when people give it the light of day, when they give it their time and they hold by it. And that's okay if people don't want to believe my version of what I saw. They can believe their version of what the FBI is telling them. That's fine. I'm not here to convince anybody otherwise. But I want to be true to myself and what I saw. And I want to honor that. I want to honor my own gifts. Maybe someday the truth will come out, the full truth, and we'll know for sure. But I would think it would be a tragedy if what we're seeing was simply a patsy being blamed for something. There are ways to influence people to do things and have them not even remember it or recall it. If anybody's been a fan of magicians such as Darren Brown, you've seen how people can be hypnotized into doing things, saying things, acting funny. If you've ever been to the fairgrounds and watched a magician work on a crowd and somebody else stand up and squawk like a chicken or moo like a cow, and it's all mind control, subliminal, hypnotic suggestions. And this has been, we know, there's been studies on this. We know that the human mind is susceptible to programming like that. So are there influences that would have wanted to take Charlie Kirk out other than a 20-year-old disgruntled college student? Are there perhaps more powerful people or influences at play that wanted to see him gone? That saw the influence that he was having not only on college campuses in the United States, but around the world, influencing hearts and minds, bringing people together to have a conversation and to talk about what we believe, helping people to formulate their thoughts better. If you really believe that, have the ability to write it in stone and defend your position. A lot of people realized they held opinions that they couldn't defend, and that was very troubling to people. But at the same time, isn't that the most loving thing someone can do, is to point out your flawed arguments so that you're not walking around with a flawed argument all day? It's a very kind thing to do, for us to have discourse, to point things out in a loving and kind way. And to my knowledge, Charlie was never rude or condescending. He simply asked questions and caused people to look at their own beliefs and, why do I believe this? And can I defend what I believe? I'm going to get into the cards. I've written out a script of some questions that I want to look at, and I'll look at each of them individually with the card and see what messages might come through to help guide us in this day, in this hour, and in this time moving forward. So without further ado, let's get into the cards. So the first card out is the Tower, and this is on the question of who killed Charlie Kirk. So in this deck, I want to show you this card. This Tower to me represents the power structure, the status quo, the man behind the curtain, the entrenched power structure. And Charlie was like garlic to them, like garlic to a vampire. And as I was looking at the artwork here, you can see the green parts of the garlic are pointing like to the windows of this tower. To me, it was like poking holes in their narrative. Charlie was exposing them. And I'm feeling like the power structure, in order to deal with somebody like him, is also bringing about their own downfall. This is going to bring about some pretty chaotic things to come to pass. But it feels like the powerful, entrenched monopoly is exposed. And this feels very desperate, what was done to him. The next question is, what was the motive? And this was the Two of Cups. This is a card of relationship, of two hearts coming together, people having a discussion, people talking. And perhaps that was the motive that this tower wanted to destroy. Seeing people, not just the youth in America, but across the world, coming together as people and discussing openly, discussing differences, having debates, talking out our thoughts and hearing our thoughts as they come out. This, I believe, was a threat to the entrenched power structure. They don't want us talking and finding common ground, which debate often does. The debate is about speaking our minds, but also bantering back and forth so that someone else can help you hone your thoughts a little better. And this could not be tolerated. The next question is, what do we need to know about this? This is the Wheel of Fortune. This is the wheel of fate, karma, things that are put in motion that can't be stopped. Things that on some level were meant to happen. Perhaps it was in his soul contract that this would happen. Perhaps it was a possibility that he knew coming into this life. But I feel like something is going to spring up from this, like that tree. In the middle of the wheel of fortune, that wheel, that cycle, that tree stands as a fortress, forever pointing to the energies that came together in that moment. But something new is coming up out of it. So the next question I asked was, what is coming next? And this is the Magician, the card of alchemy, the card of changing something, changing the energy of it, changing the trajectory of it, moving from one thing into another, where you started and where you end up are completely different. I do get a connection of something with the moon. As I was looking at the artwork, I was drawn into the globe that he's holding, that light ball. This could be tied into the moon. So perhaps by the next full moon, we will be understanding something in a whole new way, seeing things in a completely different manner. Perhaps it's almost like the weapons of the past are being forged into something different and new. And I feel like this is a splitting of the timeline, or a splitting into a new reality going forward. This feels very fluid at the same time, like we're still moving and shifting and changing with the times. But this is a powerful new beginning that changes everything. The next question is, what is leaving into the past? This is a messenger card. The Page of Pentacles to me is the student, the learner, the youth, but it also feels like it's not just about the youth anymore. This is about all of us, young, old alike, and what we are moving into, what we are creating with this. I feel like this outreach that he had with TPUSA and the youth that he reached, some of this is moving into the past. And I don't know what this is going to look like in the future for that ministry to younger people. Whether that changes hands, whether it slides like this for a while before moving again, but it feels like something is plateauing and being still for a while. The next card on the question of what will help. This was an interesting card to show up on this, because this is the card of restriction, feeling hemmed in, feeling like you can't move forward or move on. And what I took from this on what will help is this person, if he or she could simply realize that they're not really imprisoned. That's kind of an illusion. There are swords on either side, but they're not stuck there. It just appears that way. So the idea being, take the blindfold off, and then you can see what the truth is, and how little of that bondage is really the truth. This is interesting too, because this is also about healing. The herb depicted on this card is the black cohosh, which is a very healing herb, can heal all kinds of ailments. But there are healing energies present when we can take the blindfold off and look at our situation and see it for the truth of it and not just what we want to see. The next question is, what should be done in light of all this? And this is the Two of Pentacles. This is a card of weighing your options, looking at choices. There's a choice for each of us to make in this moment. What kind of person do we want to become? What kind of person are we reflecting back to the world? And who do we really want to be? And maybe this isn't so much about Charlie at this point. This is about all of us. Looking in the mirror, looking at ourselves, and really digging deep and saying, am I better now? Am I going to be better because of this? Am I going to make better choices? Do I want to live in a world that is violent and that solves problems with violence? And we know that that doesn't really solve anything. It just creates more violence. Or do we take our lessons from the past and move into a future where we think about things maybe before we say them, where we realize that words carry weight and words have the power of life and death. Words can create, especially words with intention. That's my cat. Anyway, so what is it that we are creating? This is about weighing our options, weighing in the balance our own hearts and minds, and making better choices. And my last question was, will justice prevail and all of the truth come to light? This card almost brings tears to my eyes because the meaning of this card is very special. The Ace of Cups is about new beginnings in relationships, love. And to me, the dove with the olive branch, the dove of peace, coming to a very emotional situation represented by the water. This is hope and promise of a new day, a new dawn, a new arising. The pain of the past can and will begin to heal. And it's as we make better choices, as we think about our words and how we want to show up in the world, and we begin to see that we only create division. It's only created in our mind. And if we take the blinders off, we can see beyond what looks like an impossible situation, or looks like we're stuck, or looks like we're a victim of our circumstances. And we'll be able to see clearly that we are the ones in charge of the reality that we create. And we do that by being a student again, by learning, being willing to learn, being open to ideas, even if they come from sources that we're unsure of. It's okay to learn and explore. And when we do that, we can truly create a better world for ourselves and for everyone else. Because we become the masters. We are no longer controlled and manipulated by our own thoughts and the thoughts of others. When we take that personal challenge on to learn and grow, we become bigger than our circumstances. And that leads us into fated events, where we can take the fated events, the karmic things that happen, and make something beautiful out of it. And know and trust that life is always moving and growing. And that brings us to be able to have authentic relationships with others, being able to connect on levels as human beings, one human being to another, regardless of our differences. And this is when we become like garlic to the vampires, those that create and sow division and hate are consumed by their own creations. And we can be like the garlic, pointing out the flaws in the system, the flaws in the matrix, and rising above it. This is also a card that is a catalyst to new beginnings, too. When things fall apart, it leaves room for something new to emerge. So the Tower isn't always a negative card. It's a card of something needed to shift, something needed to change. And this allows for new growth and new beginnings to come through once again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, subscribe if you want to. Thank you, everyone. I'll be back on with a new video. Bye for now.